Hi guys, welcome back to my channel For Your Heart and Home. My name is Dee. Welcome into my kitchen. Today I have a bit of a restock video lined up for you, and today I'm working with freshly milled flour. For those of you who are unfamiliar, freshly milled flour refers to flour that has been ground from whole grains such as wheat, rye, or other cereal grains shortly before it was used in baking or cooking. This type of flour is often preferred for its superior flavor and nutritional value because it retains more of the grain's natural oils, vitamins, and minerals compared to flour that has been sitting on the shelf for a long time. Freshly milled flour can be made using a stone mill or other grinding methods, preserving the freshness and quality of the grain. Many bakers believe it results in better texture and taste in baked goods. Let me quickly just go over some of the benefits of using freshly milled flour. Freshly milled flour offers several benefits compared to commercially processed flour. Number one is the nutritional value. Freshly milled flour retains more vitamins, minerals, and fiber because it includes the entire grain, including the germ and the bran. These nutrients are often lost during the refining process of commercially milled flour. Number two, a better flavor. The fresh milling process preserves the natural flavors of the grain, giving baked goods a richer and more complex taste. Number three, a higher quality. Freshly milled flour has a finer, more consistent texture, which can improve the quality and texture of baked goods, resulting in a better rise and crumb. Number four, increased freshness. The flour is used soon after milling, so it has not been exposed to air for long periods. This helps retain its natural oils, preventing it from becoming rancid, which is a common issue with older prepackaged flour. Number five, improved digestibility. Freshly milled flour can be easier to digest for some people because it retains more of the natural enzymes and fibers found in whole grain. Number six, more varieties and flavors. Milling your own flour allows you to experiment with a variety of grains and blends that may not be readily available in stores, offering more options for different baking needs and dietary preferences. Number seven, healthier baked goods. Since it retains the whole grain, freshly milled flour contributes to a higher fiber content, which supports digestive health and may help in controlling blood sugar levels. Number eight, supports local and sustainable agriculture. When purchasing wheat grains from local mills, you often support sustainable farming practices and local businesses, which can be better for the environment and the local economy. In short, freshly milled flour provides superior taste, nutrition, and quality in baking, making it a great choice for those seeking to enhance their culinary creations. So, you might be wondering, if you're new to milling, what you should keep in mind when milling your own flour. Milling your own flour can be a rewarding experience, but there are several things to keep in mind to ensure the best results. Number one, grain quality. The quality of the grains you use will directly affect the quality of the flour. Make sure to use high quality, fresh grains such as organic or locally sourced to get the best flavor and nutritional value. Number two, type of mill. There are different types of grain mills such as stone mills, impact mills, and roller mills. Stone mills tend to produce a more traditional whole grain flour, while impact grills are faster but may generate heat that can affect the flour's quality. Choose a mill that suits your needs and preferences. Number three, storage. Freshly milled flour contains more oil and moisture, which can cause it to go rancid faster than store-bought flour. Store in an airtight container in a cool, dark place, ideally in the refrigerator or freezer, to preserve its freshness. Use it within a few days if kept at room temperature, or several weeks if stored properly in the freezer. Number four, adjusting to fresh flour. Freshly milled flour may absorb more water than prepackaged flour. You might need to adjust your recipes by adding a bit more liquid to achieve the desired dough consistency. It can also be coarser, so you may need to adjust your sifting methods or flour to liquid ratios in recipes. Number 5, sifting and consistency. Freshly milled flour can sometimes have varying levels of coarseness depending on how finely it was ground. If you need a finer flour for delicate baked goods, consider sifting it. You can also experiment with different milling settings to get the consistency you want. Number 6, baking priorities. The freshly milled flour may behave differently in recipes than store-bought flour, especially if it's whole grain, as it retains more bran and germ. This can affect the texture and rise of your baked goods. Be prepared for slight adjustments to your baking times and temperature. Number 7, experimentation. Milling your own flour opens up the possibility of experimenting with different grains like spelt or rye, or blending flours to create custom flours for specific recipes. Each type of grain has different baking properties, so it's important to experiment to find what works best. Number 8, preserving nutrients. The longer flour sits after milling, the more nutrients it can lose. Try to use freshly milled flour within a few days to get the maximum nutritional benefits. If you're not able to use it right away, freezing it helps retain its freshness. Number 9, time and effort. Milling flour requires time and effort, especially if you're doing it by hand or using a manual mill. If you're milling regularly, you may want to invest in a good electric grain mill to save time and energy. Cleanliness and maintenance. Ensure that your grain mill is clean and well maintained to prevent contamination and ensure consistent results. Regularly clean the mill after each use to avoid buildup of dust and other residues. By considering these factors, you can get the most out of milling your own flour and create delicious, fresh, and nutritious baked goods. So as stated before, today I will be working with freshly milled flour. I will be milling flour for 3 different recipes. The recipes that I will be using today will be linked in the description box below if you would like to follow along or if you'd like to try this on your own. So I've been working with freshly milled flour for about 6 months now. I use this entry-level grinder to mill my flour, and I mill right before I'm ready to bake. I try not to mill ahead of time because, as stated before, the nutritional value goes down the longer the flour sits, whether at room temperature or in a cold environment like a freezer. So today I will be making sandwich loaves. I will be using hard red wheat to make my sandwich loaves, and a rule of thumb that I've found as I've been working with freshly milled flour is if you're going to be making anything that contains yeast, you want to use hard wheat. If you'll be making anything that uses baking soda or baking powder, you're going to be using a soft wheat option. For my sandwich loaves today, I'm using hard red wheat. I'm going to get all the ingredients together and get it into my bread machine. I'm going to allow my bread machine to do the kneading of the dough and the proofing of the dough. That takes approximately an hour and a half. And so while my bread machine is doing that, I'll also mill some flour because I will be making pancakes as well as chocolate chip muffins. One thing to note is that the recipes that I will be linking in the description box will be altered slightly by me. Over the last 6 months, I've tried making different recipes using freshly milled flour, and in the very beginning I was not having very much success. I have found that by adding vital wheat gluten to my recipes, it helps with the rise of my loaves. And so in addition to what you will find in the recipes, I will add 2 tablespoons of vital wheat gluten to my mix. So I will follow the recipe as it states on the recipe card, but I will also be adding an additional 2 tablespoons of vital wheat gluten. This has helped me with the formation of my dough, and this has helped to make my baking products more consistent. Now, there are some people who would prefer not to have this addition. That's okay. For us, this works for us. The gluten content in freshly milled flour is different than the gluten content in commercially milled flour, and so to save myself the headache and to help me through this transitional period, adding vital wheat gluten helps me, and so that's what I do. You can play around with it, you can choose to add, or you can not if that's what works for you. I always encourage others to do their own research and find the method that works for you and makes you most comfortable. Okay, so now that the bread machine is going with the flour for the loaves, I am going to mill again for the next item that I will be making. As stated before, this is an entry-level grinder, and one of the cons is that it's very loud. In addition to that, it does tend to heat up in between uses, and so I like to mill, get one recipe going, and then give it a chance to cool down before I mill again. So that's what I have done today. I really like this grinder because it grinds very, very quickly. It will give you very fine flour in less than a minute. I like to mill for a minute, check on it, check to see if it's the consistency that I like, and mill for maybe another 30 seconds to 60 seconds, depending on how much wheat berries I had placed in my hopper. So I have milled the amount that I needed for the recipe for these muffins. I'm going to combine the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients separately, and then I'm going to put it all together. In addition to using freshly milled flour today, I'm also making egg-free recipes. So the recipe that I used for the bread does not contain any eggs. The recipe that I'm using for the muffins also does not contain any eggs. I have replaced the eggs in this recipe by using flaxseed. Instead of using 2 eggs, I'm using 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed, and that is going to act as my egg in the recipe. I'm also using applesauce, and applesauce can also be used as a replacement in a recipe for eggs. In this case, though, the applesauce will serve as addition to my flavor profile. So in this bowl, I've combined all of my wet ingredients. I have my oil, my applesauce, my water, and my vanilla extract. And now I'm going to combine all the dry ingredients. I have my milled flour. I will be adding some sugar, some baking soda, some baking powder, some salt, and some pumpkin spice. All of this will melt together and give a nice flavor profile for these chocolate chip muffins. So I'm just going to get all these ingredients together and I'm going to ladle them out into my muffin container. Everyone knows right now that egg prices are through the roof and sometimes they are out of reach for many people. And so it's nice to know that we can still create delicious, nutritious meals for our family without relying on eggs right now. So instead of getting all crazed about egg prices, I am just going to eliminate eggs for a while and use the recipes that do not call for eggs. So if you're interested in egg-free recipes, there are a few things that you can do to replace eggs. You can create a flaxseed or chia seed egg like I did in this example. I used 1 tablespoon of flaxseed to 3 tablespoons of water. This recipe called for 2 eggs and therefore I used 2 tablespoons of flaxseed and 6 tablespoons of water. This works great for muffins, cookies, pancakes, and even cakes. I also stated that you could just replace it with applesauce. So this recipe has both applesauce and flaxseed in it. Again, the applesauce will help to improve the flavor profile and the flaxseed will be replacing the egg. If you just want to use applesauce, you can replace an egg with 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce. That works great for cakes, muffins, and even brownies. Anywhere there's a lot of moisture that's needed. Another option is using mashed bananas. Using 1/4 cup of mashed bananas will replace 1 egg in a recipe. And this works best for quick breads, cakes, pancakes, or anywhere that banana flavor won't be working against your dish. You want to use the banana where it will complement your dish. You can also use silken tofu. Blend 1/4 cup of silken tofu until smooth to replace 1 egg. This works best in dense cakes, brownies, or pies. Additionally, you can use yogurt to replace 1 egg with 1/4 cup of plain yogurt in cakes, muffins, or pancakes. Aquafaba or chickpea brine is another way to replace an egg in a recipe. You can use 3 tablespoons of liquid from canned chickpeas or other beans to replace 1 egg. This works great for meringues, macarons, and as an egg replacer in recipes where egg whites are used. Still, you can use baking powder and vinegar. Mix 1 tablespoon of vinegar, apple cider or white vinegar works, with 1 teaspoon of baking powder to replace 1 egg. This works great in cakes, cupcakes, and leaves a great texture. The list continues. You can also use nut butters to replace an egg in a recipe. You can replace 1 egg with 3 tablespoons of nut butter. This works great for cookies, brownies, or anything that has a rich texture and flavor. For those who would like something on the commercial front, you can use a variety of commercial egg replacers. Finally, you can use cornstarch. Mix 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with 3 tablespoons of water to replace your egg. This works great when thickening a recipe or when baking for recipes that calls for a lot of structure. So for those of us in an area where our egg prices are really high and we would rather not use a lot of eggs right now, there are a lot of replacements available and you can use any one of these to continue to create delicious meals for your family at a low cost. So my bread machine is going with the loaf doughs for my sandwich bread. The muffins are in the oven, and the last thing I'm going to be working on today is 1 batch of pancakes. As stated before, I'm not using any eggs in this recipe. So I'm going to mill the amount of flour I need, and then I'm going to just combine my ingredients and make my pancakes as usual. All the recipes I'm using today with any additions or subtractions will be linked in the description box below. So if you would like to have that as a reference, please feel free to check the description box for any information regarding what I'm working on today. The flour mill that I'm using will also be linked in the description box, as well as the wheat grains and where I source my grains from. There are a lot of options online for sourcing wheat grains, so if that is something that you're interested in, I can talk about that in a future video as well. One thing I like to encourage everyone to do is to take care of your kitchen equipment. So if it's possible, if you're not in a rush, it's important to spend a few extra minutes to just clean your equipment up after use. This is going to really help you the next time you go to use the equipment. It's ready, it's clean, and you can just jump right in to whatever it is that you have to do. As busy as we all are, if we don't take the time to just clean up in a few minutes, the next time we come around, our machine will not work as well as we would like it to. So now that I've milled the flour for the pancakes, I'm just going to combine all the ingredients and I'm going to make my pancakes as usual. I will be making my pancakes on a cast iron pan on the stove, but you can use a griddle if that's what works for you. So here you have it, guys. This is the spread for this afternoon. This was a quick bake. This was actually done on a day when we were homeschooling as well. As you know, we're a homeschooling family. And so while my children were working independently on their schoolwork, I was able to do this in the kitchen. So I created 2 loaves of sandwich bread using an egg-free recipe, using freshly ground flour, and everything baked off really well. I also created a batch of muffins. This is just what's left because, hey, we're hungry around here. And so this is the batch of muffins. I used freshly milled flour as well as an addition of flaxseed to replace the egg in the recipe. The recipe also includes applesauce, so both the flaxseed and the applesauce replaced the egg and added texture and flavor to the muffins. Additionally, I made 1 batch of pancakes. Again, I did not use any eggs in this recipe. I used ground flaxseed to replace the egg in this recipe. All the recipes that I used in today's video will be linked in the description box below. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave a comment below so that I can check it out and I will be sure to respond to your comments. Thank you so much for joining me today and for learning more about freshly milled flour. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for joining me today. Good luck to you. Until next time.